This Prime card is probably going to be one of the, if not, the best event ever put on by YouTube Boxing. And as a fan of the YouTube Boxing scene, I'm going to quickly give all my predictions for the 11 fights on the Prime card. First fight, we got DTG versus SX. DTG had, one fight before against Halal Ham, and SX hasn't had none. Based off that, I'm just going to say DTG wins by TKO in 2 rounds, unless SX has been training a lot behind the scenes, but I just don't know. Next up, which is a really interesting one, and honestly one I did not see coming, we have Swarms versus Ryan Taylor. I'm surprised they're doing this just because Swarms beat him so easily in their first fight. I'm gonna go with Swarms winning. Over time, Swarms has continued to improve and Ryan just hasn't. If anything, I would say that Ryan Taylor's probably one of the worst fighters on Misfits ever. I will say I do think Ryan's actually going to take him seriously this time, so I'm going to say it's going to end with a unanimous decision for Swarms. Next up, we have Astrid Wet versus Alexia Grace, which is definitely one of the funnier ones, especially considering that if it didn't happen because Astrid got put through a table. The thing about Astrid is she's not bad, but I feel like she doesn't improve that drastically. If she fought Elle Brooke right now, she would totally lose. I'm gonna be very honest. There's no way I see her beating Elle Brooke. But in this case, she's fighting someone on their debut when this is going to be her 3rd fight. Unless Alexia has been putting in a lot of work, which I'm not sure if she has, I'm gonna have to give this to Astrid. I think this one will go to split decision. Now we got Tempo Arts versus Chase Demore. Dude, I am so confident. I think this is definitely my most confident pick of all the fights. Tempo Arts is TKOing Chase Demore. No doubt in my mind. This is another one of those fights where one of the fighters, Chase Demore, just doesn't improve. He's had 4 fights. I didn't even know that. I thought he only had 3. Apparently he fought on Kingpin once, but I watched that one too. He has improved barely since then. And I know obviously he's been going up against way tougher competition, but still he barely improves. And meanwhile, Tempo has had 2 fights, but he won both of them, and also unlike Chase Demore has shown he can actually throw a punch. So I'm definitely gonna give this to Tempo. I think he's gonna go in there kind of the same way he did against Godson and just smother Chase a lot. Now for one of the first main card fights, we have a tag team match of Alex Wasabi and Nick LMAO versus Pineda and B-Dave. Now this is a weird matchup for me because if you guys watch the Survivor tag, Nick LMAO beat the absolute dog shit out of B-Dave the whole time whenever they were in together. And with that, I think if Nick LMAO can beat up B-Dave, so can Alex Wasabi. Alex Wasabi, especially in the IWS fight, proves that he can be a very good fighter. So in this case, I think it's really up to Pineda to come out there and show his experience to try and at least hold his own against those two. So we'll have to see how that goes. I just don't see B-Dave being able to beat either Alex or Nick. So I think it's going to be a unanimous decision for Alex and Nick. Next up, we have an interesting fight, which is Whindersson Nunes versus My Nate. Whindersson Nunes versus My Nate. Whindersson Nunes versus My Nate. Oh, cannot say that fucking name. My Mate Nate. There we go. That's better. For this fight, I'm going more based off their performances in general, because both of their most recent performances were against Kenny, and you could argue that Whindersson barely threw a punch, but that was just because Kenny's jab kept him away, and I think he definitely got shocked by the power and just got too scared to throw. In this case, My Mate Nate, who also got beat by Kenny, is not nearly skilled enough or has enough power to do the same thing to Whindersson that Kenny did to Whindersson. In this case, I think Whindersson's just going to bulldoze him and get a pretty easy win by TKO. This next fight is definitely the hardest fight for me to predict on the card, which is King Kenny versus Anthony Taylor. The thing about this fight is it's super close because Anthony Taylor definitely knows how to win, and he's willing to go to dirty boxing if he has to win. But Kenny also has enough offense to beat him, and also has enough defense to beat him as well. But I do think that even though Kenny proved he can stay aggressive when he fought Whindersson, there's every chance we might see Kenny shell up again. We do not know. So in this case, I'm honestly going to say that the fight's going to end up being a draw. I just cannot choose between the two. For me, it's just a really hard fight to judge, so I'm going to say it's a draw. Another thing about it is Anthony Taylor's never knocked anyone out, but he's also never been knocked out even by really high-skilled people like Tommy Fury and Idris Virgo. So I think if he's able to withstand the punches someone like Idris Virgo as well, I think he'll be able to withstand the punches of Kenny. Now we're at a really good fight, Saul Poppy versus Slim. This is one of the dream fights of the YouTube boxing scene. The thing about this fight is, for one, we haven't seen Slim fight in a pretty good amount of time, so he might have improved a lot, and he also did say he's not going to fight like he previously did against Tom Zanetti, so he may have improved a lot. But we also know that Saul Poppy has been staying very active, and we know that now he's tasted defeat and he's understood what that felt like. He's not going to want to go through that again. And even along with that, now he's in way better shape. As we can see the picture here, he's gotten a whole six-pack and everything. How I feel about it is that for Saul Poppy to win, I think he needs to be able to take more risks. It feels like there were times, especially in the Anthony Taylor fight, where he waited way too long and just kind of let Anthony Taylor come to him, and he relied too much on his counterpunching abilities. We've seen times where people who are way less skilled than Slim, like Tom Zanetti and Ryan Taylor, go on the offense, land a couple of shots, and for a bit of time, Slim is in trouble. So for this fight, I'm going to say that as long as Saul Poppy makes all the right choices, which I think he will, he's definitely a smart fighter, I'm going to say that he wins by KO in the third round. Now we have the most anticipated rematch of YouTube boxing, just right behind Logan Paul and KSI 2. We have Wallsharks versus Dean the Great. Now this is another fight, kind of the same way with Saul Poppy versus Slim, where the outcome of this fight is up to Waleed. If Waleed lets the emotions get to him, if he lets all that time, all that buildup get to him, and he starts to get too nervous, or maybe he even gets too relaxed, too overconfident, Dean will find the punch and end him like he did in the first fight. But I will say I'm confident in Waleed, especially after an interview he did with Wade. He knows the mistakes he made. He knows that in the first fight he got too comfortable, and that's what let Dean sneak that shot in. I don't think he's going to knock Dean out. I think Dean is going to make sure to stay on the defensive a lot more. So I think it's just going to end up being a unanimous decision for Waleed. Now for our first main fight, we have Logan Paul versus Dylan Dennis, and this one is definitely the most anticipated fight of the entire card. Imagine being Logan Paul right now, not only having to deal with the whole crypto zoo thing, but now having to deal with a dude exposing your soon-to-be wife for having been with every single guy known to man. This fight is definitely the one that everyone wants to see. Dylan Dennis getting over 2 billion impressions just from tweeting about Logan Paul's fiance, and all the interest in this fight is just huge. With all that being said, even after Dylan Dennis has done everything he's done, I just do not see any way that he wins this fight. Logan Paul has pretty much every single advantage possible, and even though there are weaknesses in his technique and his form and everything, the dude was able to go 8 rounds with Floyd Mayweather, which I know, yes, he obviously got beat up really bad, but cardio is not going to be an issue. Like, that's something we already know. He's not going to get tired. From all the interviews of Dylan Dennis that we've seen, there's not really a good game plan there. It sounds like he's kind of just relying on Logan Paul to get tired and that he's going to walk him down. Now onto the final fight. The main event of this entire card, KSI versus Tommy Fury. I know we want to make this fight seem closer than it actually is, and that KSI has the shot, which he does. There is definitely a chance he can win. I'm not going to put KSI down in any way. I don't think he has no chance of winning this at all, but we got to stop making it seem like this is close, because it is most likely that Tommy Fury will win. The fan can talk about KSI's karate stance all he wants, but that doesn't change the fact that Tommy Fury has every single advantage in this fight. Even though KSI has been training for a good amount of time, there's just no way he can catch up to someone who's grown up in a boxing family, in a boxing gym, having done boxing constantly and even professionally and in the amateurs. You can't replicate that same experience in the span that KSI has been training. And don't get me wrong, Tommy Fury really doesn't have much power, but no one, not even KSI, can just keep on taking jabs to the face and just keep walking forward. I don't care about your will and determination. At some point, your body's just going to give up. But KSI does genuinely have a very strong will to fight, and that does give him a bit of an edge in this fight and does give him a chance. I don't think Tommy Fury will stop KSI. I mean, KSI definitely has good cardio. I know he doesn't really have any examples of that recently, but even when he was fighting Logan 3 to 4 years back, he was able to go 6 rounds and still be relatively fresh. and I'm sure he's in better shape now. So I have faith that he can go 6 rounds with Tommy. So with all that being said, my final prediction is that Tommy beats him by likely unanimous decision. I am going to do a live stream watch party for the Prime card on this channel, so if you want to see that, make sure to subscribe. You should totally subscribe because it's going to be super fun.